this boundary study. So that's October 17th at 7 p.m. in the Executive Building. It's free. Please publicize it. And I just really want to thank all of you for coming out and for putting this panel together, because boy is this timely. I'm grateful that we didn't wind up needing security, but there was a time when we literally had to take, our communications team advised that we take down the page because we were getting some rather unattractive comments and thumbs down votes that people would not let their daughters apply to school in Maryland because of the rapist sanctuary built in Montgomery County. So it's more than just not having the same resources at schools. So thank you.
I'll go with you, and then I'll remember you.
I'm going to piggyback on
and tell me the name before you start.
My name is Barbara Nouveau. I'm on the board of I'm on the board of WDC, and I'm the director of Do the Most Good. And my comment is directed to Claudia and her comment about the concentration of immigrants in specific communities and the inadequacy of funding. I brought some flyers with me. I don't know how many people are aware of the work of the Kerwin Commission in the Maryland State Legislature, but the Kerwin Commission has been working for 2 years to develop a much more holistic way and a fairer way of allocating funding to schools across the state that recognizes the special needs of different populations and different communities. And the funding, the bill was passed in the state legislature this year, to implement and enshrine the recommendations of the Kerwin Commission to modify some things about the way we do education in Montgomery County, because we've fallen drastically. I'll give you a statistic that I ran across the other day, which was that Maryland succeeds only in bringing 13% of economically disadvantaged students to proficiency on math in 8th grade. 13%. We are ranked 48th in the nation as a state on our achievement gaps, basically. It's horrendous, okay? So what's really important, and is a battle that's coming up, is the funding formula and getting the funding formula properly structured. And we're very lucky to have Rich Madaleno, who is the budget director of Montgomery County, leading that effort on that funding formula. But there's pushback from our governor, who allowed the law to take effect, and now he's fundraising to oppose the Kerwin Commission. So there are forums being held all around the state. Unfortunately, right now, there's only one forum scheduled in Montgomery County, and we're trying to get another one. There was supposedly one yesterday, but it was really a teachers' union meeting that they opened up to the community with no notice. So I have a flyer. It's November 6th. It's at Blair High School. It's talking about the policy recommendations. It's things like universal pre-K, and one of the components of it that's incredibly important are these community schools, wraparound schools. And we have 29 schools like that in Montgomery County that are called Linkages to Learning, which provide additional services to schools with high populations of economically disadvantaged students, which tends to cluster with immigrants, et cetera. So I'm just imploring people, if you can, to go to this meeting, because our delegates and our senators, most of whom in Montgomery County are supporting this, but statewide, a lot of people are worried that the tax increases that are undoubtedly going to be needed to make this plan work are going to be opposed by citizens. But the reality is, at least according to the Goucher poll that came out recently, 75% of people in Maryland say that they will pay more money for schools. They will pay more taxes for schools. It's that important to them. But none of them, very, very few of them, know what the Kerwin Commission is. So this is really critical. So there are flyers back there, and I'm sorry I'm talking so long on this, but I'm just really passionate about it. This is essential. Yeah. This is essential in order to equalize the money, not equalize, to increase the amount of money that goes to schools just in the communities that you're talking about. because they need additional funding so that they can have an equal opportunity.
Thank you for that, and let me know if you need any help or support. I can definitely bring that perspective and the needs of that community to the table.
Great.
And then I think we have time for one more question for the person in the orange. Yes.
Okay. My name is Holly Sarakis, and I'm a member of Washington Women's Democratic Club, and I also work on the Immigration Committee of Tacoma Mobilization. I've been very happy that the county exec took executive action and made the Trust Act part of the body of law in the county. I think that was really important. And I also know that the county delivers, points a fair amount of money at immigrant services, a lot of which are carried out through the Gilchrist Center and stuff like that. However, we've been lobbying the county council for some time to create a fund specifically for immigrants who are in detention. If you're poor and you're in ICE detention, tough luck for you. You are not entitled to a lawyer because it's a civil proceeding, and there's no county money available for people in that position. In Tacoma Park, we've actually done fundraising for young people who were held in detention, in ICE detention. I know that there's money being added to the budget every year, and I'm wondering if, I guess this is really to you, Diane, if you think this year the money will be freed up so that detained immigrants can be represented.
Yeah, so actually, our office was a part of that conversation starting 2 years ago because of the work that we've been doing with the coalition. And actually, last year, the council appropriated over $100,000 for legal detention and deportation work. And actually, do you want to talk a little bit more about the work that you've been doing around that?
Yeah, so Capital Area Immigrants' Rights Coalition is I'm the director of the Detained Adult Program there. That's the hat I wear when I'm not out in the community. But I think that, we serve the 5 current detention centers where about 1,500 people are currently detained in adults, and then about 400 or so people detained in juvenile detention centers. And I think, Montgomery County has been, I would say, the target of a lot of, national pressure from national organizations to push the dial on what's called universal representation for detained immigrants. Montgomery County has a high immigrant population and also has therefore also, in some respects, has a large number of people who are also detained, who are county residents in the area detention centers. Currently there's about 85% of Montgomery County residents who are detained have been here 5 years or more. 65% have been here more than 10 years. So it's people with long-term residency. I would say the debate on deportation defense has been a difficult one because I think that opponents have used the criminal narrative to control the conversation. And I think, lawmakers have had a hard time, I think, navigating that conversation while also fulfilling the needs of, all immigrants within the community. As the most, my job during the day is to, is exclusively representing detained immigrants. And I think Kerwin has managed to move the dial in other counties. This year, Fairfax, which has a very large immigrant population, even in non-removal, there's about 12,000 people in removal proceedings right now. DC has also just signed on 2 weeks ago to fund deportation defense for immigrant populations. And fortunately, they also funded 2 other nonprofits so they can also take the heat and not just Care Coalition. But I think that, detained immigrants, for us, it's significant because they are, in my view, the most vulnerable. They're the first group of people to lose their housing, to not be able to pay their rent or mortgage, and that immediately impacts the county. They're the first group where the children, go home and their parents are not home because they've been picked up by ICE. The minute people start to lose, it's usually almost always the primary breadwinner of the family that gets detained. And once that happens, people aren't able to, most clients I've served have ended up becoming homeless if we could not get that parent bonded out. And so, they're detained far away from home. The largest facility where Montgomery County residents are detained is Worcester, which is on the Eastern Shore, about 3 hours away. And so from our view, it's a population that very much merits and deserves, both resources and attention in terms of representation. I think Montgomery County is an impressive county. I would say, even though last year the money didn't go to deportation defense, it was one of the first counties that really put substantial amount of resources into deportation defense to other groups like IUTA and HIAS and KIND. So it's been, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Montgomery County has just been at the brunt of this. I think if you Google certain names in the county government, you will see, I think even President Trump got involved at some point. So I think that's where it stands currently. From my perspective, we'll continue to push the government, as well as I'm sure the Deportation Defense Coalition and other groups. There's many sanctuary churches here and religious groups in Montgomery County who are protecting people. As we move forward in this next year, I am worried about the impact. We have oral arguments for DACA, what's amazing about Claudia, she's so well educated on the law. They are oral arguments, and please go November 12th to the Supreme Court hearings, but also for TPS. I'm just very concerned over the next year what those decisions will become. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their status within our region, and I think if these decisions do not go the way we need them to go, so I think it's very important that all these forums that everybody mentioned, that people get out and call people, call your friends and other community members to show up on November 12th at the Supreme Court, to show up October 17th for the Maryland Public Schools Forum at 7 p.m. as well as on Universal Pre-K, which we have in DC, but we don't have in Montgomery County, and other issues, because I think there are many battles and many cross issues that we're all facing right now. We have this. I'm sorry. We have this room till 4. Okay, good. Just making sure. Yeah. Tell me your name.
My name is Sandy Zimmett. I have a very low voice, so I hope you can hear me. I'm a member of Women's Democratic Club. I live in Leisure World, which really is a microcosm of the county. We have a very diverse community, and it's really wonderful. We have had. Now I belong to the Democratic Club of Leisure World. We have 750 members. I think people have wanted to do something and they didn't know what to do, so they joined the Democratic Club. And we've had, I want to tell you, we had Kat come to the club, and she gave a seminar on how to help legal immigrants fill out their application forms. And I had such a tremendous response. And I still have to get updates from you, because I'm hearing all the time from people who want more information, just when those clinics are, how they can help, and what. I had people call me and somebody called me from Massachusetts. They were visiting their grandkids. He wasn't going to get back, but he wants to get. People kept saying, "I want to do something." So I've got a lot of energy and a lot of people who are willing to help. I'd like to get more statistics from you and from Montgomery County. I thank you so much, because I really. Even though I worked at the council years and years ago, and I worked on the Hill, I lost track of exactly what's going on. And then the Kerwin Commission, we're all grandparents, and we have a lot of kids in school, and we need to have money. So at any rate, thank you so much for your great presentation.
Well, thank you. Let me just say that I will be recruiting you as one of our census ambassadors.
And I do have to say, Sandy, you are so amazing, and the Democratic Club at Leisure World is so incredible. They're so engaged. I love them all.
A lot of them belong to the Women's Democratic Club,
yes,
too. They do.
Yes. So not just Sandy, but all of you, thank you so much for getting involved with CASA. And if you're looking for other volunteer opportunities, of course, we always need volunteer attorneys. But we don't just need attorneys. Lots of people hear legal stuff and they think like it's not for them. I come back and do a training anytime to make sure that folks who want to volunteer with citizenship can do that. And then we also assist with DACA renewal, and then every Tuesday morning in our Hyattsville office, we have legal consultations. So that is a great opportunity for immigrants of any background, any status, any sort of issue period to come and meet with an attorney in person. And they won't necessarily get representation for their case, but they'll get a really solid consultation to figure out what it is they're eligible for, right? What are they eligible for? What are their next steps? Where should they go? What should they do? And I feel really proud of that program, although I don't work in that program directly. And so volunteers are always needed for that. And then finally, we always need volunteers to just show up. And so we keep saying November 12, November 12, November 12. That is gonna be such a critical decision, not just for us, but across the nation. And so I know I've seen a few of you. I know I for sure have seen Sandy at the Rockville protest that Claudia was at. She made a really beautiful speech about her story. But showing up, right, when we have people who are opposing us and making sure that we're not quiet and that we're making sure our voices are heard and seen. Sometimes just being present, you know, and having the numbers is so critical. So if you're not feeling ready to speak out, just come and be present and let your body be let your body show that you support our immigrants in Montgomery County.
Yeah, please tell me your name first.
Yeah, Tom Smith, very fortunate to do some medical work with Syrian refugees a couple years ago overseas, and just you did a great explanation on the immigrant side. I was just wondering if you could share quickly any background about refugees, basic demographic breakdown maybe, and then 1 or 2 top challenges that are facing the refugee community.
So maybe the population of refugees in Montgomery County and some of the, maybe how public charge might or might not affect them.
Yeah, so as you know, the number of refugees have been, you know, steadily declining over the past few years. And in this coming fiscal year, across the nation, they've placed a cap of 18,000 on the number of refugees for this coming fiscal year, and that's down from 33,000 for this fiscal year across the nation. And that's the lowest it's ever been since the creation of the refugee program since 1980. And at one point, the United States was #1 in the world for the numbers of refugees that we were accepting. And actually we, at one point, were accepting more refugees than all the other nations combined in the entire world. And so to see this decline is definitely going to affect a lot of our communities. So over a period of 4 years, from 2012 to 2016, the state of Maryland accepted a little over 8,200 refugees across the state during that 4-year period. But again, it's, you know, declined over the years. The top 3 countries were of incoming refugees were Burma, Afghanistan, and Iraq also. Montgomery County is, even though we have several refugee resettlement agencies here in Montgomery County, so like the IRC, Lutheran Social Services, Ethiopian Community Development Center, and I believe there's one more. The majority of refugees are actually going to other jurisdictions because of the cost of living actually in Montgomery County. So one of the things that we've been working on with faith communities and also some of our other community partners as well is to try to work with our apartment and property owners so that they can because when refugees are coming in, they don't have, paperwork or credit history like, other folks would. And so working with these property owners so that they, are accepting refugees in is one of the things that our office has been working on. Also, our interfaith network here in Montgomery County is incredibly strong. And so we've been working with they've put together a whole working group on bringing in refugees and immigrants, and the faith community has been fantastic partners for us, not only for providing services, but as Kelly mentioned, there are some sanctuary faith communities here in Montgomery County. They've been great at also, engaging and being present in support of immigrant communities. So when you saw the protests happen in Rockville, there was a very large interfaith presence there. And so, as we see the numbers declining, we are still working with, the refugee resettlement agencies to provide services beyond, the initial 8 months that the refugee resettlement agencies provide support for. So it's a, ongoing conversation, but, by working with our legal partners and faith community, we'll continue to serve the refugees that we can bring in.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think, was your other question in that related to, and I think maybe it's just some background for the group between refugees and asylees. Those same organizations that assist refugees are often the ones who assist asylees. Asylees are folks who are able to usually make it over on their own. Either they find Brazil and make their way up through the southern border, going through many countries, or because we're in a high transit area and near 2 major international airports, most of the folks we see are flying through Dulles or BWI, and then come here, seek asylum, win their case in court, and then they reach out to those resettlement agencies. Often focusing on this region because their families or cousins or other folks are already here to kind of help and assist in the process. Yeah, any other, did I answer your question? I feel like there was, okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Holly.
Actually, I have another one.
Yeah.
Because I'm a member of the Women's Democratic Club, I fully expect that in 2020 we will have a new president. The Democrats will retain the House, and we might flip the Senate. So I'm wondering if you all have any idea of, like, if you care to make a prediction about what would happen to immigration law. I mean, it's, we do need comprehensive immigration reform. We really do in this country, and it should come from the federal government. Do you see that as, are you hopeful?
So there is legislation in Congress right now, the Dream and Promise Act, that would give relief to DACA recipients, DACA and DACA eligible people, TPS and DED. It passed in the House. It hasn't, not in the Senate, so hopefully the Senate flips, right? And that could be relief for some people, right? If everything goes according to plan, right? But that's something that could potentially happen then.
I mean, so I will say that, we're hopeful, right? I think that is what gets us through this work, right? Is to continue to be hopeful. But, our jurisdiction has been working on, national and local and regional legislative issues. We belong to Cities for Action, which is a network of jurisdictions across the nation who are working on issues like public charge and immigration reform. So, as long as we continue to have partners, we're all going to forge forward in this work and just hope for the best and dye our hair blue.
My direct response is the legislation is key to move this dial forward. I think from where I sit, the immediate relief we'll experience is this right now the Attorney General of the United States constantly certifies case to himself. We've never seen anything like this in the 10 years I've been practicing. Usually, like, you know, I'm often in jail, and then I've never had experience where I go into jail and the next day the law has completely flipped because of the litigation that's going on, and so we're going back and trying to undo the speech we did the previous day. And I think what I'm looking forward to, if that happens, is not this constant barrage of litigation and just getting back to, I hope, serving people in a better way than being on the defensive. I think last year we were on the defensive, now we're much more on the offensive. We've got an impact lab, we're able to address this litigation. We've got, you know, national litigation efforts underway. But I think that's another major piece that will shift. Yeah, last question, tell me your name.
Montgomery.
Yeah.
Not really a question, more in reference to the question. So I'm an immigration attorney and a community advocate and activist and whatnot. And part of different coalitions working on these issues. And we worked back then in reference to the comprehensive immigration bill that was put forth when we still had President Obama. And some of the things that were in that bill that didn't quite make it through, despite having both houses, despite having the full Congress and the president. So part of what I wanted to say was the changes that are constantly happening. Like, I literally have to tell clients, I can't really say this now because things are changing on a regular basis. Like, I just met with the client before I came here, and it's like the same thing. I can't tell you what I used to tell you before when it was a different administration, that this is what's gonna happen. So this is what might happen, but I may have to tell you something else in a week or so, you know. So those kind of things are very real and very immediate. So I would say that, you know, we might be hopeful, but it's the push and the constant push, and not just waiting for something to happen and hoping that if we get the presidency and we get both, that we are okay, because it's not necessarily that we are okay, at least not in the sphere, because things are not always guaranteed to happen when it comes to immigration. Immigration is very, very much a topic that can go either way, regardless of who's in Congress, right? And I use that first example because of that. So I come from an African immigrant community. So we have things like the diversity visa lottery. That is being attacked a lot. And a lot of Africans who come here come through the diversity visa lottery. And it's being conflated, and the narrative is being changed about what it actually is. But when we had the bill in Congress, that was taken out. So, it's all Democrats, but they removed it. So, and some in Congress right now still support removal of the diversity visa lottery. So it may not even be part of the conversation that affects an entire group of people who live here in Montgomery County, because we have a very high level of African immigrants within Montgomery County. So I work with African Immigrant Caucus, and we work with CASA and other groups to push forward immigrant issues for all immigrants within the county. And I think we have to sort of think just, you know, beyond some of the things you see on TV, because there's a lot happening inside, and we continue to push, whether they're Democrat or Republican senators or representatives, and keep pushing them to do what is necessary for all the immigrants who are here in Montgomery County. And just making sure that we continue to send letters, calls, emails, the whole thing. Work with CARE, because, oh my God, you guys are amazing. And, you know, I've had to call CARE for feedback on information because things change so quickly. And they call me, they will respond, email, and give me feedback. And supporting that sort of an organization is extremely important, and making sure that they get the funding they need to help people who otherwise can't afford someone like myself.
I think we'll have some, I'm gonna make some closing comments, and then maybe if our panelists have some final words to say. I do think whoever is in power, one thing that has not shifted is, since I've been at Care Collection the last 6 years, the population of people who are detained has done nothing but increase, both for juveniles and for adults. So no matter whether it's Obama or Trump, it's we have to end mass incarceration of immigrants and honestly U.S. citizens as well. And I think that you know, going back to the status quo is not going to be sufficient. And so those are my closing words. That said, I think I'm very fortunate to be among this group of panelists. Very inspiring to be with you all. Do you all have any final words?
You know, I would just say that I hope that you all will continue to push full steam ahead on the issues that are important to you, and also really looking forward to working with you around the census, because again, it's going to be so critical for our communities, right? And that is something that we can do, you know, immediately. That's going to have an immediate impact on our folks. So I look forward to continuing this conversation with you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, and love Maryland.
I would just say thank you so much, because as from your comments, I already know you guys are all doing such incredible work. And if you haven't visited CASA yet and you don't know what services we provide and things like that, please come visit us. Please come volunteer with us, because we really, really need you. And to answer your question, you know, whoever gets into office, we're going to continue fighting. And you know, to go off your point, you know, Obama was deporter in chief, right? I mean, there were more deportations under Obama than ever, and I think us mentioning that is really important, because we need to not just think about the face or, you know, the one leader. We really need to think about policy. Naturalization fees are going up and up and up and up and up. Not just naturalization, but fees for USCIS across the board, right? For folks applying for all different types of visas, for all different types of relief, right? Who should be able to get their fees waived, but they can't. And these are trends that have been trending up negatively over, you know, the last several years. So hopefully we can continue to be engaged, and thank you so much for having me.
I'm happy to be here in a room full of empowering women and men. I'm so happy that I got the chance to grow up in Maryland, in Montgomery County, and always have a loving and supporting community. Just going off what you said, DACA fees also increased. When I first applied, they were $465, and now it's $495, and you have to renew every 2 years, and so that's really expensive for everyone. So United We Dream has a DACA renewal fund that you can donate to online. So if you can please just go to unitedwedream.org, look for DACA renewal funds, and please donate. It will help many people like myself, other DACA recipients who are in need. And again, I'm glad that we have the space to have conversations like this. Like there are other places in other states that people just don't have the opportunity to talk about immigration and be safe and be able to find ways to support each other. And for that, and I thank you for taking your time and being here and listening to what we had to say. Thanks again.
So I just want to quickly thank everybody for coming this afternoon. Again, can we have a round of applause for our panelists? Work that you're doing, and we appreciate you so much. We thank you for the conversation. I would like to take the time to thank our WDC member, Linda Berg-Gross, who put this program together. We thank you for all your hard work, and we appreciate the work here, so we can give her a round of applause. If you are not already a Women's Democratic Club member, you can join today, and then too. So thank you again for coming out, and have a great week. And have some cookies.
It's so cold. Are you putting the air?